Tonight, we turn our attention to Southeast Asia, where a major humanitarian crisis is unfolding in real time. Typhoon Tino, known internationally as KALMAEGI, has exploded into a powerful storm system, slamming into the central Philippines with winds over 95 km/h and rainfall totals that would drown a city in hours. Entire neighborhoods, our underwater power grids have collapsed, and more than 300,000 people have been forced to evacuate their homes, many with nothing more than the clothes they were wearing. Phones are dying, electricity is gone, and rescue teams are fighting against raging currents to reach families trapped on rooftops. The Philippines is no stranger to typhoons, but this one is different. Stronger winds, higher storm surge, faster flooding, a frightening preview of the future in a warming world. This is the story of Typhoon Tino, and the night everything changed. Typhoon Tino struck under the cover of darkness, a devastating surprise attack on millions across the Visayas. As the eye wall scraped across the central islands, 95-115 winds snapped power poles like twigs and hurled roofing sheets through the air like blades. Trees that had stood firm for decades fell within seconds, but the wind was only the beginning. In Cebu City, the skies opened with over 10 inches of rain in a single night, enough to flood entire districts before most residents realized what was happening. Rivers that normally trickled calmly through neighborhoods transformed into raging torrents, crashing over banks and swallowing cars, buses, and storefronts along their path. Communities in northern Cebu, places like Liloan, Danao, and Consolacion, were some of the first to be overwhelmed. Streets people walked every day vanished beneath water climbing towards second-story windows. Homes built on low-lying land had no time to prepare. One moment rain, the next, a wall of water. Emergency responders, forced indoors by the violent winds during the peak of the storm, could only wait, listening to desperate calls coming from families trapped upstairs, shouting into the radio. "We're losing the house. The water is inside. We need rescue now." By sunrise, the Visayas were unrecognizable. As the storm intensified, survival became a matter of minutes. Floodwaters rose so quickly in some Cebu neighborhoods that residents barely had time to grab their children before climbing upstairs. Entire blocks went dark. Power transformers burst into sparks, then silence. The only light came from flashlights and cell phones, their batteries draining with every passing moment. In Bakayan, terrified families climbed onto rooftops as water surged past second-floor balconies. Videos posted online showed people waving their phone lights into the night sky, hoping rescuers would see them. In Mandaue, a mother screamed through the wind, trying to keep her 2 kids above the rushing water. Across the metro, emergency phones were overwhelmed. "We're trapped in the house. The water's up to our necks. Please send someone, we can't swim. There are children here. Hurry." But rescue wasn't simple. Boats were tossed back by violent currents. Fallen wires crackled in the water. Even trained responders were forced to retreat at times, unable to risk their own lives in the darkness. Meanwhile, inland towns faced a different terror, hillsides collapsing under the relentless rainfall. In mountain communities, roofs disappeared under mud. Entire farm plots slid downhill in slow-motion destruction. Every decision became a gamble: stay and drown, or step into waters that hid unseen dangers. In a storm like this, heroes weren't just rescuers. They were neighbors, linking arms, kicking open doors, and refusing to leave anyone behind. Typhoon Tino caught forecasters and millions of residents off guard. Just 48 hours before landfall, this system was a weak tropical disturbance. But the Pacific Ocean beneath it was unusually warm, nearly 2 degrees above the historical average, providing the perfect fuel for rapid intensification. With little wind shear to disrupt its structure, Tino strengthened fast, too fast. Meteorologists tracked an explosive rise in power. From 40 mph to 65 mph to 95 plus, and above winds in barely a day. Giant thunderstorm towers formed around its core, accelerating the spin. Its circulation expanded outward, stretching hundreds of miles wide. This meant the storm wasn't just strong, it was massive. Even places far from the eye faced dangerous flash flooding and storm surges up to 10 feet in low-lying coastal zones. By the time Tino reached Cebu, the atmosphere was a conveyor belt, dumping up to a month's worth of rain on the metro area in hours. Scientists warn that storms like this will become more common. Warmer oceans, just more evaporation, heavier rainfall passes deadlier floods. The Philippines already averages about 20 named storms each year, one of the highest rates in the world. But Typhoon Tino shows this isn't just quantity anymore. It's the new intensity, the new speed, the new danger. At first light, the scale of the disaster finally became visible, and the race to rescue began. Emergency teams from Cebu City, the Philippine Coast Guard, the armed forces and volunteer responders rushed into the streets with rubber boats and trucks capable of driving through deep water. Their mission: find survivors before the next flood surge hit. Helicopters scanned rooftops for movement, waving hands, flashing lights, sheets held up as improvised SOS signals. In Bakayan alone, dozens of families were airlifted to safety as strong currents made ground rescues nearly impossible. But the obstacles were massive. Collapsed bridges cut off entire towns. Uprooted trees blocked main highways. Landslides buried remote villages in mud. In one neighborhood, rescuers formed human chains to reach a trapped elderly couple. In another, fishermen used their own small boats to ferry children through flooded streets. Every minute, new heroes emerged. Inside evacuation centers, people lined up for clean water blankets and food rations as generators hummed loudly in pitch-black buildings. Many arrived with nothing left, only the relief of still being alive. And yet, even as rescues continued non-stop, one question hung heavy in the humid air. Had everyone been found in time?
Ang makulit oh, tumuloy pa yung dalawang kotse na yan.
At first light, the scale of the disaster finally became visible, and the race to rescue began. Emergency teams from Cebu City, the Philippine Coast Guard, the armed forces and volunteer responders rushed into the streets with rubber boats and trucks capable of driving through deep water. Their mission: find survivors before the next flood surge hit. Helicopters scanned rooftops for movement, waving hands, flashing lights, sheets held up as improvised SOS signals. In Bakayan alone, dozens of families were airlifted to safety as strong currents made ground rescues nearly impossible. But the obstacles were massive. Collapsed bridges cut off entire towns. Uprooted trees blocked main highways. Landslides buried remote villages in mud. In one neighborhood, rescuers formed human chains to reach a trapped elderly couple. In another, fishermen used their own small boats to ferry children through flooded streets. Every minute, new heroes emerged. Inside evacuation centers, people lined up for clean water blankets and food rations as generators hummed loudly in pitch-black buildings. Many arrived with nothing left, only the relief of still being alive. And yet, even as rescues continued non-stop, one question hung heavy in the humid air. Had everyone been found in time? When the winds finally eased and the water stopped rising, the relief was brief because what the storm left behind was overwhelming. Entire neighborhoods in Cebu and across the Visayas were reduced to silent, muddy wreckage. Cars remained stacked against walls. Fishing boats lay stranded in the middle of streets. Streets that once bustled with morning markets and children walking to school were now unrecognizable swamps of debris. Families picking through what was left of their homes found soaked photos, damaged school uniforms, and the remains of a life they once called normal. Schools, hospitals, and power stations, the very backbone of daily living, stood either damaged or without electricity. Millions faced days or even weeks before full restoration. But the hardest hit weren't the buildings, it was the people. Parents searching evacuation centers for missing relatives. Children waking up after a night of terror, unsure if their homes were still standing. Farmers discovered their crops ruined only weeks before harvest, a devastating blow to survival and income. Government engineers now confront a massive rebuild, while meteorologists warn that the wet season isn't over. More storms are lining up across the Pacific. Recovery has begun, but anxiety lingers. Because in the Philippines, the next disaster is never far away.
Ito na tayong pinakamalakas na bagyo. No! No! No!
Gusto tayo magtayo sa ating kabayan.
Ito na tayong pinakamalakas na bagyo. No! No! No!
In the days ahead, people will return to homes that no longer look like homes, sweeping away mud, replacing broken windows, starting over from almost nothing. But what Typhoon Tino could not wash away is the spirit of the Filipino people. Neighbors shared food when stores were closed. Fishermen used their boats not for fishing, but for rescue. Communities united before the government ever arrived. In the heart of disaster, courage shined brightest. Still, the question remains, how many more storms like this can a nation endure? Warmer oceans are rewriting the rules. Floods are rising faster. Winds are hitting harder. And families, those on the front lines of climate change, pay the price. Tino may be gone, but its warning echoes across the Pacific. Preparedness is survival. Action is responsibility. And the world must not look away. If this story moved, you help amplify it. Hit like, share this report with someone who needs to understand what's happening, and subscribe for the latest updates on the most powerful forces shaping our planet. Together, we can stay informed, stay prepared, and help make sure voices in the storm are heard. Stay safe, stay alert, and we'll see you in the next report.